G'day everyone, Buck up in North Queensland. I'll keep this short, I promise. I'm pissed off because 4 Australian soldiers have died, and I believe it's due to neglect. And it's getting swept under the carpet, and the media need to be making a song and dance over this. I've tried to contact politicians, media outlets. Nobody is interested. So I'm putting it on my YouTube channel. Share it if you can. I reckon I'm barking up the right tree on this one. 28th of July last year, we lost 4 good Australian soldiers when an MRH-90 helicopter crashed into the ocean in the Whitsundays off Hamilton Island. Loss of four good lives, 2 officers, a warrant officer and a corporal, the air crew. Thank goodness there wasn't an infantry section on board at the time. After that crash, everyone had a knee-jerk reaction and decided to scrap the entire MRH-90 helicopter fleet. Now, it's procedure, you ground them until you get the outcome of why the helicopter crashed. But before they got that report, they've decided to scrap the whole fleet of helicopters. Have been stripped down, unusable now, and are going to be bulldozed into a hole. We had 47 at the start, $50 million a pop for an MRH-90, plus all the spare parts and everything that goes with them. It was like a $3.5 billion project, I believe. They were $50 billion a helicopter when we bought them new, 47 of them, I believe. We lost 3 guys. One got burnt in a bushfire because they landed in long grass with the searchlight on and burnt the whole undercarriage of the helicopter. That was written off. Another one experienced a couple of years ago engine problems down in Jervis Bay at night on a counter-terrorist exercise. Yes, there was engine problems. They got 2. Pilot shut down the wrong engine. Didn't hear about that one in the news, did we? The pilot shut down the wrong engine and it went into the drink. Can fly on one engine. And then on the 28th of July, I believe it was last year, on the exercise Talisman Sabre, one went into the water at night off Hamilton Island with a loss of 4 lives. They immediately grounded the fleet, which is what they should do. And then someone made the decision, and we'll blame it on the Defence Minister, and there'll be people under there that went with that, and they decided to strip them down. We're going to get rid of them. We're going to go with Black Hawks, which is what we should have done when we got rid of our old Black Hawks in the old days, guys. We should have gone with American helicopters way back in the mid-2000s. We should have gone with new Black Hawks. We had all the infrastructure in place already because we ran old Black Hawk helicopters. And we should have gone with Apaches. But no, we went with French Tigers and took 8 years to get them operational. We've had some problems with the French helicopters. There's no denying that. But they went on to this thing that they're unsafe to fly and we're going to get rid of them, bury them in a hole. Why we didn't offer them to Ukraine, I do not know. That's for another discussion. But what I'm concerned about is it's now come out that the cause of that accident on the 28th of July on exercise Talisman Sabre, where we lost 4 good Aussie soldiers, wasn't the fault of the helicopter. They got the black box 10 days after that accident. The media went quiet on it. They were all over it for the first couple of days, and then it went quiet, and we heard nothing. And we're still hearing nothing. But it has come out that they recovered the black box 10 days after, and they found out that the cause of the accident was not at fault of the helicopter. And now they believe that it was the fault of a night vision display on the helmets, and that it was a night vision fault that caused the helicopter to go into the ocean. Okay? Not the fault of the helicopter. The night vision system's got nothing to do with the helicopter. You can use that system to fly anything at night, I guess. So it wasn't the fault of the MRH-90. They're all blaming it. And I'm going to show you from a member of parliament in Townsville, Phil Thompson. This was backed by both sides of government to get rid of our MRH-90 helicopters worth $50 million a pop. This is from Phil Thompson, who's a good politician. I like a lot of the stuff Phil does, but on this occasion, he got it wrong. Big time. Phil Thompson, 29th of September 2023. I welcome the overdue announcement today to permanently ground the fleet of MRH-90 Taipan helicopters. Taipan was the name Australia gave to them. For many years, I've made several public statements regarding the grave concerns I hold over the safety and reliability of this aircraft. The inquiry into the tragic helicopter crash, which saw 4 of our Australian Army soldiers killed, is ongoing. Their families, their mates, and the wider ADF community want answers, exactly, and the government needs to be honest and transparent. Well, he hit that on the head, didn't he? The government need to be honest and transparent. Why has all this shit been friggin' hidden? That's what I want to know. The former coalition government made the decision to withdraw the MRH-90 helicopter from service, and the permanent grounding of the aircraft is the right decision. The Black Hawk is a reliable tactical troop transport helicopter that can be used in a range of missions, from training, peacekeeping, natural disasters, and combat operations. Exactly. I look forward to the chronically underperforming and dangerous MRH-90 being fully replaced by a proven Black Hawk. Well, good on you, Phil. Well, guess whose government was responsible for bringing in the French helicopters in the first place? Yours, mate. Yours. Because I reckon some stuff got done under the carpet there, under the table. There were some brown paper bags changing hands for that decision. Everyone knew we should have gone with new Black Hawks. But no, we went with French helicopters to start with. And yes, we had problems with them. I'll just remove that because there's some other stuff coming up. So there you go. The government needs to be accountable and transparent. Absolutely they do. Why wasn't the media told any of this? You don't hear about it on mainstream news now. No one wants to think. All we know is that the Taipan helicopters are being scrapped and we're going to get new Black Hawks. Well, guess what? Because Albo put the acquisition of the Black Hawks on hold until he had to read over things, we've slid right down the ladder now, and we're not going to get our full complement of 40 Black Hawks until the end of the decade now, which has left the Australian Army with no medium lift capability whatsoever. We've got 3 Black Hawks, which they're going to try and use for counter-terrorist operations with special forces down in Sydney. We need a whole squadron of them, not 3. So I hope that someone behind the scenes now is trying to get at least 12 of them down to Sydney so that our counter-terrorist squadrons, whether it be the Commando one or the SAS one, can conduct counter-terrorist operations, i.e. landing troops on top of buildings, ship underway counter-terrorist drills, all that type of stuff where you need to land troops onto ships that have been hijacked. How are you going to do that without helicopters, without going too deep into it, okay? Absolute disgrace to get rid of the MRH, and to think that they got rid of a whole fleet of helicopters, knee-jerk reaction, before they made the decision to scrap the helicopters. They didn't wait for this decision to find out why it crashed. Well, guess why it crashed? Because of night vision flying problems, which we'll go into soon. Nothing to do with the unreliability of the helicopter. The black box showed that the engines and everything was working perfectly well when that went into the ocean at night. So let's go back a bit more. What I'm concerned about now is a report that has come out, and it was a report that was given to the general in charge of Army Aviation, Major General Jobson, his name is. And also, apparently, the Chief of the Army was aware of it. Lieutenant General Stewart, who's the Chief of the Army. God knows how many other people were aware of it. And I'm going to bring this report up now. Have a look at this for some concerning shit. This is from a Green senator. I don't normally like Green senators or anyone to do with the Greens party, but this bloke is calling it out. And he's about the only bloke who has. So why aren't other people doing it? Senator Shoebridge from the Greens party. That's a bit blurry, guys. Talking to Lieutenant General Stewart and Major General Jobson. okay, Army Aviation had been in receipt of a series of reports identifying systemic problems with the helmet-mounted sight display. We'll call it a heads-up display, okay? The top-owl image intensifier and the forward-looking infrared system. FLIR, I think, is the one for that, for the Taipan helicopters. A series of concerns raised in reports from 2020 onwards. That's right, isn't it, Major General Jobson? So he's putting Jobson on the thing here. Major General Jobson. There are many reports and there are many processes in place. The Army Aviation enterprise consisting of a range of organisations to bring into service equipment to be operated in our aircraft. So deflect, deflect, deflect. Okay, he just went around in a big circle. Then he make a good politician, this bloke, this Major General Jobson. And then Shoebridge. This one here is concerning. Senator Shoebridge said, of course there's a range of reports, but when you get a report, a formal report from the Army Aviation Test and Evaluation section that test everything to make sure it's safe, that says the helmet-mounted sight display for the Taipan helicopter was a substantial risk of multiple deaths due to controlled flight into terrain, and that the display of ambiguous aircraft altitude in the helmet-mounted sight display was unacceptable risk to the flight safety. I thought that would have stuck in your mind, Major General Jobson. And that report you received. And then Senator Shoebridge says, the Army Aviation, so no reply to that one. And then he says, the Army Aviation Test and Evaluation section are the experts and the specialists tasked with doing these evaluations, aren't they? Lieutenant General Stewart, the Chief of the Army, then says, they are part of the system, you are correct, in terms of them bringing a level of expertise. Senator Shoebridge, they found that the heads-up display, which is a common term, which I'll use instead of HMSD, did not meet airworthiness standards. Indeed, they found that the symbology tested was observed to be incongruous, that's a big word, isn't it, with the primary flight display, creating mixed messages and the confusions for pilots. In direct breach of Federal Aviation Administration requirements. They found that, didn't they? So the bloody Army Aviation Test and Evaluation section have found major flaws with this night vision heads-up display, which is part of the helmet, okay, that they used to fly military aircraft in. From memory, when the old Black Hawks, when I was in them, the pilots just had a helmet on and just the flick-down normal night vision goggles. They've obviously progressed now to this big fancy system like a heads-up display with technology. The Army Aviation Test and Evaluation section has tested them and has said they're not up to Australian aviation standards, and they have the possibility to confuse the pilots and cause multiple deaths should a helicopter crash. Well, guess what happened on the 28th of July near the Whitsundays, or in the Whitsundays? We had a crash with multiple deaths. Exactly what they're saying. So Lieutenant General Stewart here, he'll be another good politician when he leaves the army, because that's all they want to do, feather their own nest. And the last one there is just basically trying to avoid the question. The question was, you guys knew about this and you did nothing about it. You continued to let our pilots fly the MRH-90 on these using these night vision systems that were deemed unsafe. And that they said could cause multiple deaths in the report. You reckon that would stand out to Major General Jobson when that come across his desk, that he would read this and go, right, until we sort this out, nobody's to use these things. They're unsafe, being deemed unsafe. But they let the pilots continue on and continue using them until we lost four good men. Pisses me off. Here's another one. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go a bit further than anyone else probably has even thought of. going to put my old copper's hat on here, guys. When you, in the criminal codes, it's any act or omission. So if you do the act, you can be found guilty. But if you omit to do something that results in something happening, you can also be held liable. Any act or omission. So if I know that someone's going to jump in that car and go down that hill and it's got no brakes and they kill themselves and I knew about it and said nothing, I can be held liable because I omitted to let those people know that it wasn't safe. Well, have a look at this. In order to convict you of manslaughter, it must be proved that you did or omitted to do an act which caused the death of another person, and the death was caused unlawful, and that the death was caused unlawfully. There's no lawful reason for killing anyone in this country. That is, without a lawful excuse. So they had no lawful excuse for those pilots to die, and the circumstances did not amount to murder. It must be proven that you did or omitted to do an act which caused the death of another person. So Major General Jobson knew he had this report on his desk and he omitted to do anything about it. He kept letting military aircraft fly, and that has caused people to die. Is that not an omission? Correct me if I'm wrong. Why isn't this being told in the media? Why is the federal police not all over this and investigating it and finding out, instead of trying to crucify our special forces boys who are over on a two-way range and trying to crucify them and the media? I'm trying not to swear now. And the media, the ABC and Channel 9 that went out on a limb trying to crucify our special forces lads. And now we have here senior officers that have neglected their duties by keeping their air crews safe and keeping soldiers safe. And they admitted to bloody do anything about it. They sat on their hands and let it go, and we've lost 4 good men because of it. Thank goodness, I said before, we didn't have a bloody infantry section of 10 men sitting in there. We would have been down 14 men. You can see how it could have been a lot worse. I'll tell you now, if I was the families of the 2 officers, the warrant officer and the corporal air crew of that MRH-90 that went down into the ocean, I would be friggin' asking for answers. I'd be wanting heads. Has anyone thought about this? That senior officers, military officers, knew about the dangers of this bloody heads-up display night vision equipment that caused to the accident of the MRH-90? It's come back now from the black box saying that the aircraft was flying perfectly well. There was no faults of the engine. That was all in the flight data recorder. Okay, it's come back. It's been cleared of that. Absolute disgrace. So what I'm calling for is someone, why isn't the federal police getting involved in this now? We've had that, surely I don't know if the Civil Aviation Authority get involved in this. As soon as the military do something, you can guarantee they'll cover their own ass. CYA, cover your ass. That's what they'll be doing. Things will be getting covered up because what happened is they started not feeding information onto the media, and no one in the media went looking for answers. They just went, oh, we've lost 4 men. It's tragic, blah, blah, blah. The helicopters are unsafe, and that's as far as it went. Well, guess what? The aircraft weren't unsafe. It was flying perfectly well. It was another item, a helmet with a head-up night vision display. I don't know the item personally. I've only seen the pilots flick down the NVGs like that. I think this is a more advanced system, which has led to confusing the pilots as to their altitude and that. And that aircraft went into the water doing a great rate of knots. Okay. We lost 4 good men because of it, because of incompetence and because of senior military officers taking no action. So there's a couple of things out of this. The senior officers and the people that knew about the flaws of that head-up display, night vision head-up display, we'll call it that, they need to be held accountable. The federal police need to get involved. They need to get that report. And Major General Jobson, as far as I'm concerned, he should be looking down the barrel of manslaughter charges at a maximum. I'm sure there's some other stuff there that could float as well. Absolutely unacceptable. If I was the family, and I hope the family get to see this is my views, heads need to roll. Heads need to roll over this, and heads need to also roll over the people, and there's going to be a lot of them, that made the call to scrap the entire MRH-90 fleet before they got the results that it wasn't the fault of the helicopter that killed those 4 pilots. It was another item being used, night vision thing, and it's on the. It's if you go looking for it, it's on there. Okay, that they found the black box 10 days after the crash. It came back, and the aircraft was functioning perfectly well. And the whole focus of the investigation then turned to the chopper getting too low and spearing into the ocean, doing a great rate of knots, guys, and killing 4 people because it was dangerous. And the evaluation section that tested the item deemed it was dangerous and said that if a helicopter goes in, it's going to lead to multiple deaths. Exactly what happened. And senior officers knew about it and did nothing. Am I the only one seeing this? Am I the only one friggin' that this has popped out? Surely someone has gone, this Senator Langbridge or whatever his name is, he needs to keep pushing this. Somebody needs to keep pushing it. Heads need to roll from the defence minister down because they've just wasted $3.5 billion worth of taxpayers' money on a perfectly good helicopter. Yes, it had some problems. Most of the problems, if you talk to my brother, who was the deep maintenance manager on them, he said they were a good helicopter. And Airbus helicopters had a 70 to 80% availability rate on them. The Army's availability rate for the Army units that tried to keep them in the air had like a 20% availability rate. Yeah, they didn't have enough parts. They had to rat some other helicopters to keep the other ones in the air, which isn't good enough. That's all the whole thing of the acquisition thing. You're going to buy a new bit of military equipment, you make sure you've got the backup there to keep it going, whether it's a tank, a helicopter, a submarine or whatever. You've got to have the support there to do it. And they didn't. Apparently the spare parts to keep them in the air were almost non-existent. It wasn't good. But that's not the fault of the bloody helicopter, is it? It's the fault of the people the acquisition team who made the decision to buy those helicopters in the first place. As I said, backtrack, we probably should have gone with Black Hawks in the first place. We had all the infrastructure in place. Parts were more readily available. Somebody made the decision, and I'm pretty sure it was the LNP party, correct me if I'm wrong, that were the ones who said we're going to go with French helicopters. And it was also the LNP party said we're going to go with French submarines. Look how that turned out. How many $1 billion of taxpayers' money did we waste when they changed their mind and went, oh, maybe we should have got American nuclear submarines? Everyone, when they went French submarines in the first place, everyone went, what? Who are the friggin' idiots making the decisions at the top? Our politicians and our senior military people have got no friggin' idea, guys. They've got no friggin' idea. And they're letting the country down. Anyway, that's it. I think I've said all I have to do. Why isn't anyone investigating this more? Put a comment down. Should the federal police be investigating this? Maybe they are. Haven't heard anything about it on the news. No one seems to give a shit. No one seems to give a shit that we lost 4 good men, 2 officers, a warrant officer and a corporal that all had families. Friggin' hell, it's a disgrace, and it could have been avoided. Things happen sometimes and we lose men. I get that. Now that bloody the pilot, they're going, pilot error, pilot error. Probably imagine being the family of the pilot now going, oh, my son bloody stuffed up and he's dead, and so are three others. Well, it probably wasn't his fault. It was the fault of the equipment they gave him to use. Maybe if they gave him stuff that worked and was safe, that would never have happened. I'm sure he was a very good pilot. They gave him bloody dodgy equipment, and he's dead, and so are three others. Absolute bullshit. Put a comment down. Let me know what you reckon. I'm passionate about this, guys. I'm not going to let it go. Someone needs to do something. I've contacted Jackie Lambie, Bob Catter, that Greens bloke, that good on him for he's the only one who's even spoken out. Sky News. No one gives a shit. Well, I do, because 4 Aussie soldiers are fucking dead because of incompetence. See you later.